IT вас 3 часа 17 минут ночи on Highway 212. A frozen ribbon of asphalt slicing through heart of Montana. The temperature he dropped to 16 below. And snow was falling sideways, thick and heavy, like after a storm. Inside HBS cab, Jacob found sleep with another recipe of stale coffee. HBS headlights carved a narrow tunnel through the white darkness. Then he saw IT. A shadow on the road. Small at first, then clear, then heartbreakingly still. He eased off the gas, squinting through the swirling snow. IT hasn't a branch. IT hasn't roadkill. IT was alive. Barely. Most drivers all day kept going. But Jacob didn't. And what he found lying in the snow that night would change Bottage's life. And the hills, forever. The road doesn't care who you are. IT just stretches ahead. Cold, endless, and honest. For Jейкоб Рейнольдс, life had become a architecture of tires, engines, and empty coffee cups. It'd been a trucker for 20 years, long enough to forget what silence felt like. Each journey started the same and ended the same, one delivery after another, one lonely night blending into the next. Sometimes, when he parked under the white Montana sky, it wondered how long it had been since it spoken to someone who actually knew HB's name. HB's wife had left years ago, tired of waiting for a man who was always almost home. The road was all he had left. He didn't mind, not really. It learned to live with the home of the engine and the company of static on the radio. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the noise, the routine, and the long miles, something in him was quietly fading. And on one bitter winter night, the road decided to remind him that even the loneliest PDZ can cross something extraordinary. When he stepped out of the truck, the cold hit him like a hammer. The wind howled through the valley, stealing each's breath. HB's boots crunched across the frozen ground until the flashlight beam landed on a shape, fair, tangled and stiff, half-covered in snow. The wolf lay still, one leg twisted in a snare of roasted barbed wire. Its eyes flickered open at the light, not defiant, not wild, just pleading. Jacob's breath faded as he crouched beside IT. For a moment, he just stared. Wolves were creatures of imitation out here, feared, respected, never touched. But there was no question in HB's mind. This wasn't a threat. IT was dying. Easy now, he whispered, pulling HB's gloves off. He reached for the wire, HB's fingers numb and bleeding as he worked to unwind IT. Every twist sent a shudder through the animal's body. But IT didn't beat, didn't move. IT simply watched him with golden eyes, each breath quicker than the last. When the final strand snapped free, the wolf let out a groan, a sound of exhaustion and relief me hit together. Jacob tore off HB's jacket, ripped IT around the trembling body, and lifted IT into HB's arms. IT was heavier than he expected, then the muscle under mattered fear, like carrying a bag of stone and life at once. The storm screamed around him, but he kept walking, head down, boots slipping on ice. By the time he reached the truck, HB's fingers were blue and shaking. He laid the wolf gently on the passenger seat, slammed the door, and blasted the heater. Steam rose from their breaths. The wolf didn't move. Jacob watched, praying for any sign of life. Minutes passed. Then the chest moved. A weak inhale. A faint exhale. He sighed. You're not dying tonight, body. He put the truck in gear and drove into the storm. A man and a creature, both alone, both clinging to warmth in a world made of cold, was past. Snow blurred the world into white nothingness, and the truck's cabin became their only island of heat. The wolf lay motionless, wrapped in the jacket, fiercely towing in pitches. Jacob kept glancing sideways, part fear, part hope. When the creature stirred, its eyes opened halfway, dull gold in the dim dashboard light. IT looked straight at him. And for a heartbeat, Jacob forgot how to breathe. That story, IT isn't wild. IT was human in its depth. wounded, tired, but alive. He reached for the glove box, poured water into the cap, and slid a tear across the seat. The wolf blinked once, then slowly leaned forward and drank. The soft sound of lapping water was the most beautiful sound Jacob had heard in years. The heater hummed, snow beat against the glass, and in that strange, fragile silence, something invisible shifted. A connection neither of term could explain. Jacob smiled faintly. Guess you're about a couple of trees. Here. Be way down. They reached a gas station in a small town called Red Valley. The storm had broken. The world outside shimmered under morning light, all white and gold. Jacob called the local vet, Dr. Clara Mason, who promised to meet him at her clinic. When she arrived and saw the sight, a rugged rocker sitting beside a massive wolf, talking to it swiftly like an old friend, she just stood there in awe. You brought this in yourself? She asked. Jacob nodded. Found him on the road. Didn't seem right to leave him there. Clara smiled. Then let's make sure your friend gets another shot at life. Together, they carried the wolf inside, treating frostbite, cleaning wounds, and giving fluids. The animal never once lashed out, just watched them both, quiet and calm, as though it somehow understood what was happening. For 2 days, Jacob stayed in town. He didn't know the way, he just couldn't bring himself to live. Every few hours, he checked in at the clinic. He'd sit beside the wolf's cage, sipping coffee, speaking swiftly even when the animal slept. Clara would catch him staring at the creature for long minutes. You know, she said one morning, you may have saved its life, but I think it's given you something too. Jacob chokered quietly. Maybe. Feels like I finally did something that mattered. When the third morning came, Clara called him outside. The wolf was standing, strong, steady, eyes clear and bright. A tracker rested on its collar for safety. Jacob crouched, meeting those golden eyes one last time. He didn't speak at first. Words didn't fit moments like this. Finally, he whispered, you don't belong in a cage. You belong out there. Clara unlatched the gate. For a moment, the wolf stood still, wind brushing through its fur. Then, with one powerful leap, it vanished into the open fields of snow, free again. Jacob stood in silence, watching until it disappeared into the white horizon. For the first time in years, the road ahead didn't feel empty. Jacob never saw the wolf again. But sometimes, when he drove that same stretch of road at night, it catches a faint echo of a howl rolling across the mountains. Not a signal for help, but a song of freedom. And every time he heard it, he smiled. Because deep down, he knew that on that frozen night, when two lonely souls crossed paths, neither one of them truly saved the other. They simply reminded each other that kindness, even in the coldest world, can still burn warm enough to bring the wild back to life.